Good morning, ladies, and the few gentlemen who are on my mailing list. I promised you a video with my husband talking about the 28-day juice cleanse that we did back in May. It's taken a little bit of convincing, he's going to call it forcing, but here we are because we did the juice cleanse together. And a big part of this juice cleanse, it wasn't initiated by me. I was doing it to support him. So I didn't feel like I could come in and talk about my experience on the 28-day juice cleanse without him, because he was a big part of that process. So here he is, my husband, Karim, who you will have never seen on social media. He's not on Facebook, he's not on Instagram, and I'm not allowed to show him on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere. But he has agreed to come on here and talk about this because it was such a transformational. Yeah, it was transformational, but I think it was beyond that experience, and it's very relevant, obviously, to what I do. So he's here to share with you. I am really happy that he's here to share because so many of you who've already been on this journey, and so many of you who would like to go on this journey, there's always sort of that lingering question in the back of your minds. Well, how can I get my husband to join? How can I get my kids to join? How can I get my family to be healthy? So part of us doing this together is for you, if you've never done this, right, to understand what it's like to feel horrible and then to feel better, and what the process looks like and to get you the results. But also, if you'd like to share this video with your spouse or your family, because that might just give them the nudge that they need to start this journey alongside with you. All right, so I'm going to let him talk about himself and introduce himself, and I'll just sort of come in and fill in the gaps as needed.
Hi, أنا كريم عمار. I'm 49 years old. I work in real estate. Generally speaking, I'm a healthy man, a healthy guy. Always have been relatively healthy. I've always been someone who's been very, very active. I walk or run daily. I go to the gym maybe 3-4 times a week. And I want to say I probably do quite a decent amount of movement on a daily basis, and I have been. Originally, I was a long distance runner. I would run a lot. I would run maybe 1 hour to 2 hours a day. That was probably starting the age of 18, 19. And that probably lasted through until I was about 38 years old. Just to give you a quick history, when I was 38 years old, I started to get severe back pains. And I went to several doctors at the time. They told me because I do a lot of running. And over the years, this has really impacted my back very, very negatively. So they basically started to give me a lot of medication. The pain between the ages of 38 and 39, if I'm not mistaken, was quite severe, to the point that I remember at a certain point in time, I was bedridden for almost 6 months, literally bedridden. Like I could not go to work. I couldn't even sleep on a mattress. I had to sleep on the floor for 6 months. My son at the time was probably about 4 years old. I could not carry him. It was a very challenging time. Long story short, I probably took every single type of medicine, that has been subscribed to me, and there was no result. And it just didn't amount to much.
Meanwhile, I became a health coach, and I was literally begging him. I was like, you've tried the medicine, you've tried everything. What are you going to lose by changing how you eat? And at the time, he was living on junk. I think you were having McDonald's like almost every day. You're a big foodie, junk foodie. And of course, the idea that food can impact back pain was really out there, right? We can relate if you have a stomach ache, if you have diarrhea, if you have constipation, like something that's like straight in your digestive system. But the idea that food is related to something called inflammation, which can impact any part of the body, and especially 10 years ago, right, was really, really, it's still out there, but even more out there back then. So finally, I think you were just so desperate. Like he didn't do it because he was convinced. He was just so desperate. Like all the medication wasn't working. Everything the doctors were saying wasn't working. So out of desperation, he decided to try nutrition. then?
I think part of the issue was, and basically I thought, and I've lived all my life, I was the type of guy who can eat anything. I don't gain weight.
Yeah,
so,
that's important. He doesn't gain weight.
So basically I spent my entire life, I can eat any type of junk. My wife, طبعا, anything she eats, she has to be careful. It was frustrating her that I can eat anything and get away with it. For me, the way I was eating didn't really factor in any way at the time to my back pain. I just thought this is something that just strictly happened as a result of my running, which maybe to a certain extent, maybe yes, that has an impact. And مش بقول that this does not factor in, but definitely that played a role. However, when I hit basically a stone wall and I could not improve my back, out of pure desperation, just to have said, and then I have tried everything, I decided after a long time of persuasion to try Dena's, to basically alter the way I eat. من غير ما أخش في التفاصيل and without a lot of detail, basically in about 2 to 3 weeks after having completely altered the way I eat, I've stopped all junk. I basically was living on fruits and vegetables. Basically, I was up and walking in no time. It was like pure magic. That was my first encounter with basically anything that has to do with food, or food impacting my life and my lifestyle. So I've changed to a very great extent the way I eat since then. But طبعا, needless to say, I would go through cycles when if I'm a bit stressed at work, if my mind is not in top form, I always resort to food throughout my life. كل ما أتضايق, every time I'm anxious, every time I'm concerned about work, I would just eat and eat and eat. And I've started to definitely realize a correlation at that point. And every time I would mess up or go in a cycle where I'm not eating right, immediately my back pain would flare. So I want to say I lived most of my 40s. Again, I'm 49 years old. From the age of probably 40, 41, definitely I realized that, okay, I mess up my food, I'm going to be in some kind of pain. That's it. And I've been living, through this cycle for quite some time, until I want to say about maybe 8 months ago, the start of this year. We had gone, Dana and I and the kids, for Christmas vacation. We were out of Egypt. And halfway through the trip, I got COVID. And basically, from that moment that I got COVID, which probably I want to say was around the 24th or 25th of December, my entire body collapsed completely. All the pain came back. I felt extremely weak. I felt my immunity has dropped dramatically. And about 3-4 weeks later, I still wasn't feeling any better. Some symptoms were gone, but the worst thing about this, that Jan, Feb, March, April, May, and I still felt I wasn't myself. And that was very, very scary, especially because this just goes against everything that I ever feel. I usually feel very strong. I've always felt very invincible, even until very, very recently. Like, nothing can affect me. I feel everything can affect anyone around me, and I can eat whatever I want. I get away with it. I can go through whatever, and I still get away with it. But unfortunately, it just felt for the very first time, this was no longer the case, because this had dragged out for months بالنسبة لي. We had وبعد كده أنا ودانا والولاد, we went on another trip together, and after 2 or 3 days on that trip, I got sick again. وحتى the kids started to joke. They're like, are you always getting sick now? What's wrong with you? How old are you? فابتدوا يتريقوا, and it just honestly started to feel like I was on this incredibly crazy, vicious cycle, this crazy downward vortex of just constantly not feeling well, constantly feeling sick, constantly mentally unwell, because when I was physically not well, this affected my state of mind to a very great extent. So I felt like everything was spiraling out of control. Constantly midday, constantly anxious, constantly stressed, and that seemed to just not stop. So that led me basically, sorry to have dragged on for too long, this has led me to basically, I turned to the and قلت لها let's find a solution. قالت لي, I told you 100 times, here's what you need to eat, you're not following it, this is not, this is in your hands. But I felt like I needed something really, really dramatic. So I told her, what is another option that we can do? That's when she proposed that we do.
It was a pure coincidence. As we were having these conversations, we were in Milan at the time, and he was in bed and he was sick, and the kids and I were out and about, and he was waiting for us at home. Some of you may know that I follow this amazing guy called Jason Vale. He was my first introduction to juicing and smoothies, even before I became a health coach. And I've been following him for 12, 13 years, something like that. And I've done his juices before. I've done a 3-day juice cleanse with him. I've done a 7-day juice cleanse with him. And I just follow everything that he does. And some of you may also remember that about 8 or 9 years ago, he released a movie called Super Juice Me, where he took, I think, 8 participants to his juicing retreat in Portugal. And these 8 participants had something like 23 medical conditions between them, everything that you can think of. And he put them all on a 28-day juice and smoothie only plan, and all of their medical issues, I think with the exception of one, all of them disappeared. So I've been following him, and right at this moment when Karim was telling me, I need to do something drastic. I'm like, I was trying to convince him he doesn't need to do something drastic. Like, just cut out the junk and cut out the chocolate and cut out the sugar, and you're going to start to feel benefits. But in his mind, he just needed to do something drastic. So literally on that day, I got an email. I'm on Jason Vale's mailing list, and he had just released a new video. I think it was called Super Juice Me 1.5, something like that. Even though he's this juicing expert and he has these juicing retreats around the world, he's a human being like all of us. And over, during lockdown and COVID and all of that, he fell off his routine, as we can all do. And so he realized that he stopped, day by day, he stopped having his juices, and gradually he started bringing in more of the comfort foods, more of the junk food, and he gradually was feeling horrible, and whatever medical issues he had, they were coming back, and he was gaining weight. So he sort of conducted an experiment on himself where he took it all out. So he went full force, eating all the junk, eating everything that's wrong, with the intention of putting himself on his 28-day juice cleanse to showcase how you can transform yourself. So he had just come out with this movie that follows him for the 28 days. He shows you himself at the beginning, overweight. He looks bloated. His blood pressure was off. His cholesterol, I think, was off. And he shows you all of these details in the movie. And then he does the 28-day cleanse. He takes you through it. And then he shows you his results at the end, which are mind-blowing. So I was like, do you want to watch this movie? It's a 30-minute movie. And he was like, I'm like, come on, watch it. In my mind, I was thinking, okay, maybe he needs somebody else besides me to inspire him. Because when you're with me at home day in, day out, like, it just sounds like noise at the end. Like, it's just me talking day in, day out about eat this, don't eat this. So I thought, right, let him listen and let him hear it. Let him see a man. I think Jason Vale, I think is 52 or 53. Let him see another man who is feeling like how he's feeling. He's sort of gotten himself in a rut, and now he's going to get himself out of the rut. Let him watch that. And if he agrees, then we can go home and do this 28-day juice cleanse, because I already had the app. And so he watched it, and he's like, okay, let's go home and do this. And we had like 3 days left before we went back home. And I remember thinking to myself, let's go home and let's do this. I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm not sick. There's nothing wrong with me. I don't have aches and pains. I don't want to do 28 days of juicing. I'm fine. And there was a part of me that was like, okay, even though I wanted to help him, even though I wanted him to feel better, I was hoping that he would change his mind, and that we would come back home to Cairo, and he would say, okay, maybe the 28 days is a little bit extreme. Just, let me just eat clean, and remove all the junk. But no, the night we arrived, I was unpacking, and he looks at me, he's like, all right, so are we juicing tomorrow morning? And I said, no, we just got here. So I need a day to prepare. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and order the groceries and get everything ready. And I was like, oh my God, he's serious. He really wants to do this 28-day juice cleanse. And I eat really clean. So I didn't feel like I needed to, but I felt like I needed to support him. And I panicked, right? And this just shows you to what extent you want to always be in your comfort zone, whatever the comfort zone is. I panicked. Like, I've never done a 28-day juice cleanse in my life. I've been vegan for 28 days. I can cut out meat for 28 days. I can cut out wheat for 28 days. I can cut out sugar for 28 days, no problem, and longer than that. But 28 days of just juice and smoothies, I was like, okay, let's do this. So we basically did it. We decided on a start date. We arrived, I think, on a Sunday night from Milan. I woke up Monday morning. I ordered all the groceries. I prepped everything, and we started on a Tuesday. And we went through the whole process. So because though we were starting from two different places, our experiences were a little bit different. So I didn't have all the aches and pains. For me, my biggest, looking back, my biggest issues were I could definitely use more energy. Who can't use more energy? And I was still getting some night sweats at night, but that was it for me. But for you, what were all your specific symptoms the night before we started?
Well, at that point in time, basically, it was everything. It was my back pain. It was, I had about a year ago, from the running that I would be doing, I got something called bardo plantar fasciitis, basically, which was pain in my heel and the sole of, the bottom of my feet. So when I would wake up in the morning, it was the worst. I would wake up every morning and not be able to put my feet properly on the ground. Yani, I would have to walk basically ala sif رجليا. I would not be able to put my feet right and just walk. And it would take about a minute to 2 minutes until I sort of just basically break into and be able to basically warm up and move. And this pain was constant. It would come and go through the day, but this has been going on for quite some time. And for some reason, I've surrendered and I decided, it's just part of the aging process. It's not a problem. My parents wake up in the morning, they can't walk. I'm 49 years old. So you know what? It's starting now. I can't wake up and just run. I wake up and it takes me a moment to move. بلاين كده الأمور to get into the groove, basically. And that's it. So all that was one side. My mental state was really bad, obviously, because physically I wasn't well. I would wake up with night sweats. I would wake up in the middle of the night, very anxious. These were the basic things. Bas.
Yeah, ladies, men can also get night sweats. So we started the plan, and the plan was basically 5 juices a day. You wake up in the morning and you have a small shot of apple juice with ginger, and then you have a smoothie, and then a few hours later you have a juice. So a smoothie is a little bit more substantial. It's heavier than just a juice. And then a few hours later you have another juice, and then dinner time was a juice, a smoothie again. So that was it. If you got really, really, really hungry, Jason Thale had something that he called an SOS, which was basically you could have half a banana or you could have half an avocado. So I want to say the first day we were just really excited, and it was also like a bonding thing for us. We hadn't done anything, just the two of us in a long time. So the first day was really exciting, and the first day neither one of us really had any what we call withdrawal symptoms. So when you're coming off of bread and cheese and pasta and coffee and junk and chips and chocolate and all of that, you go through a withdrawal process where the body's eliminating these toxins from your body. And that process of elimination takes a lot of effort, excuse me, for the body to do that. So you can feel a combination of things. You can feel headaches, you can feel fatigue, you can also feel body aches, you can feel really sleepy. If you have very specific symptoms, those symptoms can flare up before they get better. So it took you a while. Like I remember, I think the second or third day, for me, I cut coffee. That was the biggest thing for me because I still have coffee every day. So I had some withdrawal from coffee, but by day 3, I think, or day 4, I was like, I had to rest the first 3 days for sure. I did have a headache. I did feel tired. But by day 3 or 4, I was back to doing my workouts. But I think for you, it took you like 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks to get over the fatigue and the body aches and the headaches and all of that. It took him a while. And that's normal. Like if you're talking about reversing years of symptoms, it's not going to happen overnight. And it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong, but I think you were a bit worried that it took you a little bit longer than what you expected. What were your worst detox symptoms?
Well, it was extreme fatigue for sure. I got a lot of headaches. I was really struggling to stay on track and stay with the juices. It really wasn't easy to stick to just juicing. I needed to eat, and I needed to chew, you know. So, and I remember on the program there was like basically like if it gives you like an SOS option, lower if you can't follow with the juices, then you can have a banana, you can have an avocado. So I was like having an avocado and a banana. Yeah, you're supposed to have it just once a day, and I was having one around the clock.
Yeah,
almost.
he was doing the SOS option several times
every hour on the hour.
Yeah.
But it was like magic. Basically, about 2 weeks in, all the symptoms that I really needed to get rid of, which were predominantly my back pain, my knee pain, the anxiety, my weight as well was really an issue at that also, because I had gained some weight. All this seemed to disappear, but I think the biggest shock was in the middle of all this, the one thing I wasn't focused on and wasn't realizing even was an issue was the fact that I had gotten used to waking up in the morning and having, pain in my feet and not being able to walk. I just woke up maybe 2 weeks in without even realizing. I just woke up and I started to walk, and I realized it took me like a minute later, and I realized I've been walking with zero pain. This was probably the first time this had happened in about 1 year. And that's so even other symptoms that I wasn't aware, I just was coping with them, and I realized they were just part of my life, and I wasn't even realizing they were actually a thing. It was not, I repeat, it was not an easy experience, and it just felt like this really was like an SOS thing that I was resorting to doing because I could not cope anymore with how I was feeling, with how I looked, with how I felt, with anything at all. I want to say about 80% of all the issues, 90% of all the issues that I was having pain in my shoulders as well. That also disappeared. 28 days in, I was a transformed human being. Without exaggeration, I had probably shed about 8-9 kilos. That wasn't my main target. Always when I wanted to eat clean, it was about me losing weight because I just wanted to always be in shape. And for me, I've been active. I've always been in shape. But this was very strange with this daily. But this was the first time I actually decided I want to do this cleanse, not to lose any weight at all. It was just to fix all my issues and my symptoms. It was just an added bonus with this belly, obviously, the weight that I shed. So it was great. But I do have to confess, Bardo, I have fallen off the wagon a little bit after, and I realized, and then I had to get back again on track. But the point is, since then, I would be juicing. I would incorporate 1 meal a day. I would have dinner at 6, and this dinner is usually salmon. It's vegetables. It's it's just basic light meals, and I've been functioning that way, and it's been actually pretty healthy psychologically for me.
Yeah, it was. I mean, for me, like I said, it was my energy was the biggest thing that I could feel, like the most dramatic difference. And I thought I had energy, but with this, I was waking up at least an hour and a half earlier by myself. I literally, whatever little night sweats I was getting completely disappeared. Another thing I noticed was my hair. Like, ladies, like, how when you go like this, you just sort of always like pull out a few strands. That stopped completely. Like my hair loss stopped completely. It wasn't even like a little bit, it stopped. And I think it's really important. You might be thinking, oh, in those 28 days, what did you do? Did you just stay at home the whole time? What did you do when people came over or we went out? Our lives actually didn't stop in those 28 days. I remember we had on 2 occasions, we had family over on the weekend, on Fridays. And we were, how we usually do on Fridays with our families. We either order food or we're making burgers, or it's never healthy. Let's put it that way. But when you put your mind to something, it didn't deter us. Like everybody was having their burgers and we were there with our juices. And of course there was the curiosity and there was the joking and there was, making fun of, like, you name it. But when you decide to do something, and if you have support, especially, and you're doing it together, it becomes a lot easier. I also had a friend of mine who was visiting actually in the last 2 weeks of it, the last 10 days of it. I had a friend of mine visiting from England. She was here with her baby and I was taking her on Cairo. I took her out for lunch. If we went out, I would just have mint, tea to drink or just water. Obviously she was eating all the food at home. We were cooking for her, but we were just having our juices. So your life doesn't need to stop. Your life keeps going. You just adjust it, because when you reach a point where you feel like your back is against the wall and you feel like your health is just, you can't function anymore. You can't get up anymore every day and do what you need to do because your body's holding you back. You make that decision and then it just becomes non-negotiable. You're going to do it no matter what. And then, like he said, since then, we traveled right after we finished the 28-day. So obviously when you're traveling, we did stick with the juice, at least one juice every morning, but we were traveling. So we had things we wouldn't normally have. And then the whole summer was a combination of back and forth, traveling, having family over. If you guys have seen my emails and my posts, there was a burger day a few days ago, but some things have stayed, especially for him. For me, it was basically just getting back into my old routine. But for him, it just now is like, he's got it here right now. Look. This is he's drinking his green smoothie this morning. And sometimes I'm like, I'm kind of tired today. I don't feel like waking up and making a smoothie, but I do it, right? And he has his smoothies every day. And some days he's having 2 and sticking to a really healthy meal. What you want changes. Whereas before, I think you were just craving the junk all the time and craving. Towards the end of the cleanse, he was sending me all these Instagram stories of recipes, of salad recipes, right? So then, can you make me the salad when we're finished? And then I'd get like 16 stories of like all these healthy salads he wanted me to make, or can you make this fish, or can you make this salmon? So you're physiologically and biochemically inside what you want to eat changes. And this can happen. It happens for men and women. So a lot of times we think that it's women. We have all these issues with emotional eating. We have our hormones. We have all of it. And obviously I talk about women and hormones, but the body is the same. The mechanisms that run his body are basically the same mechanisms that run mine. When they break down, the solution is one. And so we're probably going to redo this cleanse. I think we said twice a year, maybe at least twice a year, like a full-on 28-day cleanse, just because it feels good. And why wouldn't you want to keep doing something that feels good? I think that's it. Do you think you have anything else?
No.
You think would help? Any advice for the men watching?
Yeah, I think, I do have something for me that definitely made a very big difference is to be able to do this with a friend, a partner, a mother, a brother. I think it makes it much easier having a buddy do this 28-day cleanse with you, because you need to share the experience with someone. So you don't feel completely on your own. So this actually made a huge difference for me. The other thing is just to not surrender, to just hang in there, because it takes a while for the mind to adjust. And I think for me, one of the most important things, and probably about 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, maybe even, the foods I was craving, the junk food that I was craving disappeared. I was craving salads, I was craving salmon, I was craving just healthy foods. So obviously my mind, the cravings, the mental cravings I was having completely shifted. So and if at some point when you're done with the juice cleanse, it's not a way to live, for sure. You cannot live on juices. It's completely unreal. because at some point while midway, I was thinking, you know, I'm going to do this forever. So it's not realistic. It's not sustainable. And you need to be eating. This is just like something to just get you off the ground.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, just having one juice a day eventually, but just eating right would be great medium. But it's just a good thing, you know, to just kickstart the cycle of getting on the, you know, health wagon for you.
Yeah. Definitely. And as Jason Vale, if you download his app and you follow this plan, he tells you that, you know, it's 20 juicing for life. If you only juice for the rest of your life, that's not really sustainable. And then he brings up a very valid point, is that we have teeth, right? We were created with teeth, which means we're meant to also chew. So I'm going to put the links for the Jason Vale, the plan, if you want to download it and do it yourself. And I'll put the links for the 2 videos that I also mentioned that he's done. They're so incredibly inspirational. I would definitely invest some time to look at those and watch those. And if you have any questions at all for me or Karim, email me. And if there's a specific question for him, I'll ask him, get the answer, and I'll email you back. All right. So thank you so much for spending 20 minutes with us and spending this morning with us, and I'll see you again in another video. Bye.